Anne Lister had the mind of a Nobel Prize winning laureate, and she had the body of an Olympic athlete, and it's like, who's going to do that? And then Suranne came in to read, and it's like, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome, and thanks for coming. Obviously this is an industry greats masterclass about Gentleman Jack. Welcome Faith and welcome Sally. Can we just start with Sally, because Sally, in 2014 you were on Desert Island Discs and you tried to smuggle all 26 volumes of Anne Lister's diary as your book onto the island, and Kirsty didn't let you. It's fair to say this has been a long passion, right?
Well, I just wish I'd argued with her.
I think you should have done.
I don't know why I didn't go.
Can't say that on Desert Island Discs.
Not to Kirsty, no. You can say it to Lauren, but not to Kirsty.
It's just pretend, Kirsty, you know, I'm taking them.
But, so tell me why this woman so fascinates you, and how long this sort of love affair with her goes back, because it's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I grew up in Halifax, so I've known about Shibden Hall and Anne Lister for. I can't remember not knowing about her and Shibden Hall. She's fascinating. She was this extraordinary polymath. She was fascinated by everything. She was fascinated by the world and everything in it. And she had this extraordinary physical and mental energy, and it's a measure of how extraordinary she was. Not only that she lived this extraordinary eventful life, but she had the whatever it took to then go home and write about it every day. This incredibly detailed journal, every day. I mean, there are very few days that she misses.
It's incredible. It's something like 4 million words. Is that right?
I think it's nearly 5 million now.
Wow, amazing.
And so, and the word count is bigger than we thought it was.
So you didn't have the diaries. You didn't read the diaries when you were living nearby. You used to sing carols in Shibden Hall, didn't you?
I did when I was little. We once went there to sing carols when I was in the choir at Riffenden. No, because the diaries weren't accessible. I mean,
right.
The diaries have been kept secret. I mean, there's a whole story to be told of how the journals have come to us now, because there are many times when they might not have done. You
really?
know, they were first uncovered by John Lister, who was inherited the Hall after Anne died. He was a distant cousin who'd inherited Shibden Hall, and he found the journals and he was fascinated by them. He couldn't read the coded sections, but he was a keen antiquarian. And he published extracts from them in the Halifax Guardian as a to show people what life was like in Halifax in the 1830s. And he was fascinated by the code, but couldn't read it. And him and a friend, Charles, is it Charles Burrell or Arthur Burrell?
Arthur Burrell, I think.
Arthur.
I think it's Arthur
Burrell. Mr. Burrell. They got together and they managed to decode the diaries, and Mr. Burrell advised John Lister to burn them. And John Lister wouldn't burn them, but he hid them behind the panelled walls at Shibden.
Good man.
And they were rediscovered in the 1930s when the people of Halifax, John Lister left Shibden Hall to the people of Halifax. So the council went in, and the head librarian at the time, Edward Green, was in charge of sorting out all the documents in Shibden, and his daughter Muriel Green worked with him. And she was, again, fascinated by the journals until they worked out what was in the code.
Yeah.
Because John and Charles Arthur Burrell had left a key to the code. And once again, they were hidden away when people realised what was in the code.
It's such a good story, all right. It's an amazing story.
When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I mean, there was no way these things were published or accessible or readable in any way, shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there was a conscious effort to hide her away because she was gay.
Yeah.
No, it's only in the last 20, 30 years we've been able to talk about her at all, because she was Halifax's dirty secret.
Yeah, I was going to say, you always describe it as a dirty secret.
Yeah. And now, she's Halifax's proudest boast.
Yeah, and kind of a queer icon, isn't she?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Because it was really interesting. This is I'm already digressing. I'm going to do this a lot. I'll try not to do it too much. But the theme tune at the end of Gentleman Jack, I assumed, I'm a big fan of the Unthanks, so I've seen Brenda O'Hooley playing keyboards with them, and I assumed she'd written it for you. But they played that song years ago.
Brenda and Heidi wrote that in 2010.
Yeah, and you saw them at a gig and went, I'll have that.
Well, no, I actually saw them online. Helena Whitbread told me that there was a song about Lister. So I looked it up online and saw them singing with Heidi, miming with a banana.
Amazing.
Sally just loved it.
It felt very appropriate for the tone and style of what we wanted to do with the show.
It's Anne often gallops, whether she's without a horse, and the tune gallops with her. It's just like it's proper coconuts together. It's brilliant. So Faith, let's talk about the commissioning process, because obviously by the time you came to do this, Sally, you had a huge track record, awards coming out of your ears, not literally, but you were in a position to be offered, what would you like to do? Basically, was it Charlotte Moore at the BBC?
Yeah.
And at what point did Faith join you in the process?
I'd gone over to America to talk to various production companies about co-producing it, so we could get a bigger budget and do it, with just do it justice. And it was with another production company at the time, but I chose to take it away from them. And I'd been working with Faith on my film about the Bronte sisters.
Yes.
And Faith's done so many period dramas, so she had a lot more understanding of how that would work. And it's so complex doing a period drama. And
you want the woman that did War and Peace, basically. That's who you want.
I wanted the best people on board. I wanted people who had a proven track record with how to do a period drama. Although I wanted to do a period drama with a difference, with a bit of a twist, with a bit of a huge twist. And because Sally and I had been working together on the Bronte piece, and so we just had an understanding of how we both worked, and it worked very well. We had a great time making that. When Sally sent me the script, I was just absolutely blown away by this, and just obviously thrilled to be involved. It's such a unique and actually such a refreshing way to look at a piece of our history. It didn't feel like there are so many historical dramas out there, and the really brilliant thing about this one is actually, as a character, Anne feels so modern. She feels like she's just been dropped into this world. But as a show and everything Sally's done with it, the tone of it just feels so fresh and modern. And that's what I really loved about it. It felt like actually an opportunity to do something really different with the genre.
So when you were in the room in America, was a cut the crap lesbian industrialist from the 1830s Yorkshire, was that a hard sell, or were they just like, sure? HBO got it straight away. They felt it was pretty clear straight away that they felt it was their bag. It was exactly the kind of thing they, like. That it's about a gay woman, and it's got a very different kind of way of telling a story. It's not a dressing up box period drama. It was interesting talking to various companies that it was really clear straight away whether it was for them or not, and HBO just went for it very in a big way.
I think the other thing they loved about it is the tone that Sally brought to it, the stylistic approach that Sally gave it. They very much wanted a piece that was going to really, not feel as though it needed to be in any way deferential to the past, but actually really break rules where it could, not just in terms of her character in the story, because she was such a rule breaker herself, but in terms of the style of the storytelling. And I think they just really backed, they were massive fans of Sally's, obviously, and they just really backed her and what she wanted to do. And, along with the BBC, who do that naturally, they're a great team there. We were very lucky actually to have both HBO and BBC really supportive of what we wanted to do.
And in terms of the casting, obviously that is, that was the keystone. The other elements were all there by that time. The big nice HBO dollar and the BBC, but the casting is so vital. This could have gone so wrong with the wrong actor. Was Suranne, because you've worked with Suranne before, was she top of the list? Had you written it with her in mind, or did she just arrive one day?
No, I'd thought about her and could because Suranne is very she has a very contemporary vibe, and oddly, you know, that's now what really works. What really rocks with the show is that she feels like she's been sent from another planet, this character. So that really works. But I couldn't see Anne Lister. Normally I have someone in mind who I want to approach, who I want to play a part, and I just couldn't see Anne Lister. I wrote the first 3 episodes kind of blind, just not seeing what who could be this person. It's partly because there are 4 portraits of Anne Lister, and they don't quite agree with each other, so that you can't actually. I have not got in my head even now a clear image of what I think she looks like from those pictures.
Okay.
That we've got. So I couldn't imagine who could bring everything to it that Anne Lister needed. You know, Anne Lister had the mind of a Nobel Prize winning laureate, and she had the body of an Olympic athlete, and it's like, who's going to do that? And then Suranne came in to read, and it's like, oh yeah.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
It
was amazing.
It was brilliant when she came in to read, because HBO weren't as familiar with her as we are, and normally you would just offer Suranne a part. But she really blew us away. She brought so much into the room. She brought so much, well, just energy and charm and charisma and wit, and she when she started to act, I saw her do things I've never seen her do before, and which is brilliant, because I'm so familiar with her work. I kind of thought I knew what she does, and then suddenly she was being Anne Lister, and it was so new. And we did rehearse for a long period of time to, you know, so she could work on the voice and the walk and all that kind of stuff. But that day when she came into Lookout Point, it was really cool, wasn't it?
It was really mind-blowing.
Not so much.
She'd been at
she'd been at Buckingham Palace.
Been at Buckingham Palace in the morning, like as only Suranne, you know, happens in Suranne's life.
What was she up to there?
Oh, God knows, I don't know, just there for tea. But she pops in, and she's really kind of dressed up. And the first thing she did was she took her shoes off, and she found this sort of found the physicality, looked for the physicality in the performance. And I think we were just really struck by how, you know, there were so many facets to Anne Lister's character, and within, you know, that short session of working with you know, you were only in there with her for a couple of hours. She was able to tap into so many of them so quickly. She's such an intelligent actor, and she brings such incredible energy and attack to her performance, and that's one of the things that I love about it. There's real commitment there to what she's doing. It's very brave, you know. She really goes. I can't
really imagine anyone else being Anne Lister.
No,
I still can't. You know, if Suranne wasn't doing it, I really can't imagine else could.
No.
I know what you mean.
All the things that, you know, as Faith just said, she was so multifaceted. There was so much to her personality, to the point that she's a contradiction. You know, as soon as you say one thing about her, you can think of 1,000 things that contradict it. We kind of know too much about her because we get such intimate information from the journal.
And it's interesting because Anne herself was such a committed, almost insanely committed diarist. Those fourth wall breaking moments, did it feel like absolutely it was impossible not to have her talk to us, because it just feels like you needed to hear her thoughts sometimes? Yeah,
because there are things that she'll say in the journals that she won't say to anyone else in the world, and that you can't really dramatise. And it felt as well, it was like trying to achieve the same emotional effect that it has on you when you read the journal, that you feel like she's talking straight to you from 100 years ago. And it's a very intimate experience, and it's very I'm just looking at the journal here, not the real one.
Literally, have you got the physical 5 million words? Where does one keep? Jeebus creepers. Okay, so that's some of it. Wow.
What I'm working from as I write episode 6.
I'm feeling sorry for whoever had to photocopy all 5 million words for you.
But it's all now been digitized. I mean, thanks to Sally, actually the diaries have all now been digitized and are now available for the first time in their history online.
So anybody anywhere in the world can read any page of the journal.
Yeah, which is an incredible achievement, you know, just in historical terms, but, you know, just to be able to actually go in and access it and read it. And admittedly, some of that's in code, but actually it's not that difficult to crack the code. And once you crack the code, you can become very adept at reading it and getting into those parts as well.
Yeah.
And there is a project as well run by the West Yorkshire Archives to transcribe the whole thing, which will be astonishing. I mean, it's such a huge undertaking.
Yeah, that's like deep thought. That's going to be going like beyond the end of this this generation.
I would say for this project, we've transcribed more of the diary than has ever been transcribed before. You know, obviously other historians have looked at different sections in detail, but there are, you know, I think we've now transcribed more pages than have been done before it. And that in itself has been huge. And we continue to transcribe because obviously we're planning ahead for future series. So
you're preserving history as well.
Sorry, say again.
It's amazing you're preserving history as well as like it's enough to make a TV program, but it's great.
I think that's why I think we feel lucky that we're working on this show. It really is unique.
Yeah.
It's what is unique is that people just didn't know about this fantastic woman till, well, you know, some people did, but she's suddenly gone global.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't know when. I don't think there's anything similar to this. The way she's suddenly just exploded on the world. This woman's been there all our lives. You know?
It's incredible, hiding in plain sight almost. Well, not in talk, you know, a bit. When it came to assembling the rest of the cast, what is I think really noticeable about stuff you write, Sally, is that because the comedy running through tragedy is so important, you, especially in the Gentleman Jack cast, there's quite a few people who've either straddled comedy and drama or are really known for their comedy, like Gemma Whelan and Rosie Cavaliero, people who, you know, can do those little comic highlights when they need to. But also Suranne, because people think of her as such an intense performer, you know, Dr. Foster and so on. But after she did, I think it was series 1 or series 2 of Julia, Wake Up, Scott and Bailey. Okay, got there at the end. After she did that, she did a thing with Charlie Brooker that my husband co-wrote called Touch of Cloth, which is basically being her character in Scott and Bailey, but she just did almost the same thing, and it was funny that time. It was there's something about the assembling people who are really adept at comedy that make your stories really sing, I think. Do you deliberately go looking for funny people?
Not necessarily. I mean, I like people who are capable of being funny, and I like serious actors who aren't frightened of being funny. You know, they don't think, oh, this is serious drama, therefore we can't do funny.
Yeah.
You know, because I think life's funny. If you want to be realistic, you've got to. People communicate through humour all the time. It's a basic form of communication.
Yeah.
And I hate poor-faced drama or dark dramas where I find it alienating because I find it's not very real. And I think, like in Happy Valley, it's just as funny as it is dark.
Yeah.
But for me, that's real. That is what real life is like. And I think particularly with Gentleman Jack, I wanted people to be really entertained. I wanted it to feel like it was a real romp. Yeah. And so humour was a very important ingredient for this one.
Yeah.
And I find Anne Lister very funny. I find Anne Lister hilarious sometimes, sort of consciously and unconsciously. You know, I think she's such a complex, unaware of herself often, and often you're reading between the lines, and it's like with Marion. You know, she's so rude about Marion in the journal, her sister.
Yeah.
You end up feeling sorry for Marion, despite what she's writing in the journal, because she's just thinking, bitch, you know, writing all that nasty stuff about your little sister who's, you know, just got to cope with living with Anne Lister.
Yeah. She's massively flawed. I think that the trailer really reminded me that I think I had her in my head as just, well, she's the heroine, you're kind of rooting for her all the time. Half the time she's being Machiavellian, she's manipulative, she's sort of seducing without being overt about her motives, obviously, because she can't be. And she's kind of Casanova more than any other sort of, I mean, not overtly as bad as a man, but she does act in a kind of very flawed and troublesome way sometimes, and she's a terrible snob too.
Shameless.
But somehow we love her.
Shameless. That's what I think is so fascinating about her, is that, you know, she just didn't, she stopped at nothing to get what she wants. She had such incredible self-belief most of the time, and such an amazing kind of sense of, you know, what it was she wanted, a really strong will, and nothing stood in her way. And she was just, you know, it meant she was shameless, she was audacious, you know, and there's so much fun to be had with that, you know.
What I always find compelling about Anne Lister is she had a really healthy sense of her own self-worth. And I know that you usually say that as an insult to someone or about someone, but I don't mean it as an insult. I mean it in the positive way, that that's very compelling. Somebody who she knew how clever she was, and she had the kind of class confidence, I suppose, that gave her that kind of swagger.
Yeah, for sure.
She's she's a complex character, and there's a lot not to like about her, and yet she has this fantastic charisma which Suranne embodies, you know, so brilliantly.
And in the arc of the first series, obviously, we have to root for her, because that lovely, spoilers, you know, the final episode when they finally, that incredible moment, I cried. But they, you know, where they take the sacrament and they have their sort of love, you know, sort of in their eyes, sort of made official. You have to have been building up to that for the previous 8 episodes. You have to. I'm interested though, Sally, because you're a writer, and I've, you know, most people I know are writers. We're all hermits. We all like being alone, preferably perhaps to being with other people. But the jump from writing to directing is such an odd one, it seems to me, for you to want to do, because you're going from being like a hermit to like a kind of conduit, and everyone needs to know. Are you comfortable in both roles?
Yeah. I really love. I think I love directing more than I love writing.
Oh,
but it's a tough one.
What do you love about it?
You're right. Writing is such a solitary job, and directing is a very sociable job. You do use very different parts of your brain to do them, but I think you're using the same instincts. And for me, writing always felt like only half the job. I feel like I know some writers are happy just to pass it on to a director, but for me, I always felt like I always struggled to let scripts go.
Okay.
And watch them get decimated by other people.
Has that happened before?
Yeah.
No names.
No, it's not. I mean, I've been lucky. I've worked with some really fantastic directors, but they'll always do something that you end up crying about or being really distressed about, because, you know, you know what a scene was about, and for whatever reason they've misunderstood it, or they've misunderstood part of it. And you could have poured your heart and soul into something and spent a long time getting something right, and it's like they didn't quite notice what that scene was doing.
Yeah.
So that's quite a generalization, but sometimes it's about details. But for details to go missing when you know how important they are is heartbreaking. It's, you know, when you've put so much effort into something.
And faith in, sorry, carry on, Sally.
For me, the directing is a continuation of the same process of having written a script.
Is it easier, Faith, to have that unified vision of writer and director together, or is it easier to keep them apart and play them against each other?
No, it's definitely easier when they're together. I mean, you know, Sally has such a complete sense of the overall, the whole vision for the show. That's, you know, and that goes into every single corner, every single aspect, whether it's in terms of, you know, how the story is told through costume design or production design, or what the camera's doing, as well as the editing or the post-production, the musical choices. You know, it seeps into everything. And when you're working with a writer like Sally, who thinks about how every aspect of the storytelling through all of those different elements, then it is just, you know, it's just a joy, because you know that actually the vision is complete and it's in Sally's head, and our job is just to make sure that we're getting it out, and we're making sure that every department understands what it is that Sally's trying to achieve. So no, it's great. And I think it's also for the actors to work with a director who is also the writer, you know, to be able to, in a way, have that one person who, you know, who understands and from where those lines have come. It's just, you know, it's great. Yeah, we're very fortunate.
And as a production, obviously, are you entirely on location? How much is studio and how much is location?
Pretty much all on location. We have just a tiny bit of studio where we have our production base in Leeds. But, you know, it felt so important to us to actually be able to go to Shibden Hall and shoot in Shibden Hall. And, you know, apart from the kind of slightly sort of, there's a slight otherworldliness to actually, especially when Suranne is in full costume in Shibden, and you know, you're in those very kind of familiar rooms, and she's almost sort of brought to life there. It's also just having the textures and the sense of that space in its truest form, you know, in the show is again, it's a gift. And you know, I'm a massive believer in if you can shoot on location, because we could never recreate Shibden in that, you know, with all of those layers, that aging that's there.
The only studio we had was the upstairs at Shibden, and that's because we couldn't film upstairs because the hall's just too fragile.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Well, we couldn't have taken a whole crew and the kit up there.
Yeah. Well, you've tripled their visiting figures already, haven't you? I think there's a tourist attraction, so presumably the money's going to come in and they can, you know, restore.
Who knows? Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, the impact of the show locally, I mean, you know, the sort of we've been astonished by the impact globally, and the sort of the deeper, more profound impact that Anne's story has had on people globally, but locally also it's just been phenomenal. I think now, you know, Shibden is it's an iconic historic house, where before it was a slightly, I mean, I love its shabby nature, but it was a slightly forgotten or overlooked gem. And I mean, you know, Sally does that brilliantly in her work, in that she will shine a light on parts of Yorkshire that obviously, you know, Sally's grown up with and knows very well, and that the rest of the world, you know, to them it's new. And I think also the way Sally looks at it with such authenticity, it just it's showing the world as no one's ever really seen it before. And I think that that's a massively, you know, incredibly unique thing. But I think, you know, done a brilliant service for Yorkshire and the tourist board.
Definitely. And Sally, do you, I mean, your sort of tradition for, I just call them cut the crap women. I can't think of one of your female protagonists who's not the cut the crap. I don't want to say strong women, because I think you've said this before, they are real women, but they are certainly capable, and they don't spend time worrying about little things. They're just trying to get on and live their lives. Do you have any more of them in your sights at the moment, or are you just focusing on Anne Lister for now?
Yeah, I've got so many ideas at the moment.
That's great. In lockdown, everyone else is like, creatively, I can't, but that's brilliant.
No, I can't at the moment. I'm really struggling to concentrate. I've got more ideas than I've got concentration at the moment.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day about, you know, complex female, well, just characters.
Women. Let's call them women.
Well, male or female, really. Somebody was saying to me, oh, but will this not make this character very unsympathetic? And it's interesting. It made me realise that we get hung up on whether characters are sympathetic or not. And I've started to wonder if it's a mistake, really. And, you know, central characters should be challenging. And in the way that Anne Lister is, you know, I don't know why I like her so much. She's such a cow.
Yeah.
But I do. I love her. I absolutely adore her. She's so fascinating. You know, that's what's compelling about her. But she's, you know, the more you find out about her, the more, you know, she's challenging to like. And
yeah,
I think that's, you know, a key to creating central characters is not about, you know, I hate dramas where it feels like the writer's a bit too much in love with their main character, or they're a bit too perfect, or they're flawed in a way that's so nice, you know.
You don't knock the corners off Anne Lister. You know, she has sharp edges, and you you know, and it was interesting in the development of the scripts for series 1 and then the production of series 1, you held on to that. You know, you were really determined that actually all of those kind of elements of a character, those parts, ingredients of a character that might, you know, previously someone may have said, oh, but you know, how will we feel about them? You just, you know, she was there, warts and all. And
yeah, a lot of people, when they first hear about Anne Lister, a lot of women, they kind of wanted to be a feminist role model, and she really isn't.
No,
you know,
she's Casanova. I come back to my former point.
Yeah, you know, she
hello,
in, women's rights, or you know, the enfranchisement of women. She believed in her own rights. She thought she should have had the vote, but not other women. I find that really fascinating. It's brilliant writing scenes for somebody who's, you know, supporting the side that you don't expect her to be supporting.
Yes, absolutely. So you were in production for series 2. At what point was the plug pulled because of this?
We were just with the first director. I'm not directing it this time.
Ah, okay.
The first director was just about to sit down.
Just about to start.
Yeah.
So we were literally, lockdown happened just the week before prep was due to start. So so at the moment, we like everyone else in the industry, we have everything on hold, and we're due to pick up in the autumn.
Yeah.
So you know, it's frustrating for everybody, but we are where we are.
What do you do? And Sally, what was
exactly?
What was the decision?
Anne Lister, I don't think even Anne Lister wouldn't be able to.
She couldn't say, carry on.
I don't think so.
Oh, she'd run for the hills when she was in where we started season 1. She was in Hastings because she couldn't go to Paris because of cholera.
Ah.
So she was very good at keeping out of the way of any nasty diseases.
Would she have stockpiled toilet paper? She would, wouldn't she?
She'd have
I hate her. So, but Sally, what was the direction? What was the decision not to direct this time? Why was that?
Logistics. It took me 2 years to write the first season, and HBO wanted the second season really quickly. I mean, far too quick. I couldn't have done it as quickly as they wanted it. Literally, there wasn't time to write 8 episodes. So, for the scripts to be ready in time, I wouldn't have had time to prep.
Yeah.
So. You know, it was a decision we made either to try and deliver the show sooner rather than later, or to wait for me to be able to direct it. And it just, I felt I needed it. I don't know. I've been working solid for 4 years, and I kind of couldn't face it. I'm sad to say, because
longer than that, Sally. Been working solid for.
Yeah.
It's
the Archers.
Yeah, but I'm sad I'm not going to do it. But you know, it's an interesting. You know, I'm going to be sure in it. It'll allow me to be on set all the time, because I won't be prepping to direct my own block, which I was doing last time.
Yeah.
It means I'm going to be a lot more hands-on, involved on the set when I'm not. Last time when I was when the second director started, I was in the edit. Mm-hmm. And then when the third director came on board, I was prepping for the last block. So it meant that I couldn't be across it as much as I would like to have been. So this time I'll at least be able to do that.
Yeah, you'd be lurking and twitching in the background going, not like that, not like that.
Yeah.
That's your job. Listen, I can see there are loads and loads of questions whizzing in the bottom. So I'm just going to whiz through a few if that's all right, because we've got about 20 minutes left, but there's tons of questions. If you're both happy to just take some quick fire ones. Okay, cool. Right, we'll start with, Okay, so Heather wants to know, I'm assuming this is from a writing perspective, how do I get a screenwriting agent? That's a big one, isn't it? How do you get that first?
How did you get yours, Sally?
I'd written a stage play called Hanging On when I was at university, and I sent it to just anyone and everyone I'd heard of in the TV industry.
Yeah.
And I took a production of it to the Edinburgh Festival with the University Drama Society, and I invited loads of people to come and see it, anybody I'd ever heard of in television. and nobody came. But one agent, Meg Davis, asked me to send her a copy of the play, and I sent it to her, and she took me on.
Amazing.
And so I always tell aspiring young writers that what they need is a really good calling card. They need a piece of work, like I had this play that I've written, that they're proud of, that they think is a fair representation of who they are and what their work is, and shows that they can write a good, solid piece of drama with a beginning, a middle and an end. And it'll show that they can write, they can structure, they can do story, they can invent characters, and most importantly that they can write dialogue that works.
Yeah. And is that structure
shameless in sending it out to people? Look at those you like. If you like Gentleman Jack, look at who's produced it, look at who's written it. Sorry, not written it, me.
Don't say that.
It. The production company.
Yeah.
Send it all to Faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd love that.
One thing
or anything you like, look at the names of producers and send. And be shameless in sending. If you're proud of it, send it to people.
Send it. And one thing I'd add to that is when you're looking specifically at agents, look at who the junior agents are in the, there are the Uber agents, the kind of power agents out there. They've probably got their list is full. Look at who their junior agents are in their team. They all have a couple of junior agents who work with them, and they're building their lists. And for them, they want to hear from people like you with your work, because they want to find the next exciting talent. So don't send to the Ubers, send to the junior agents building their lists in their team.
The ones who are ambitious and champing at the bit to break someone new. Okay, there's a question from Jerry, who says, was Gentleman Jack a female-heavy production? It sounds like it must have been. Was that a conscious thing because there's a lot of women in the credits, was it a conscious thing to work with women?
Yeah, it was.
Good.
Bringing directors on, female directors. But then I think there was an element in which naturally we had a lot of women on board. I don't think...
like working with women. Women are super cool.
But it was a lovely crew. It was a really nice
crew. We did consciously want to put together an all-female directing team, and I think that felt like a really great decision, and we're really proud of that. But I also think that naturally we just work with a lot of women. We have a very strong female script team. There were we had a female design. We had a lot of great women working with us. I just think we like
your company Lookout Point it's very sort of female heavy as well, isn't it? There's lots of
it's a very female driven company.
We had a fantastic designer, Anna Pritchard, who I've never worked with a designer like that before. She was what was so wonderful about the HODs, were they just all talk to each other all the time. So when we were talking about what the thing looked like, there was such a fantastic cooperation between them.
Rapport.
Yeah, a rapport, which you can't always, you never know whether you're going to get that or not.
I really loved. I think it's really striking. It looks modern. It's sort of in sort of simpatico with the character being so modern. But it's I think the thing that really I was perfectly in keeping with the script was that it was so I'd forgotten how colourful it was. The pastels, the spring-like palette. There was like a tree of blossom, and this like crow sitting on a branch. Yeah. Like what?
That was just fantastic communication between Anna and Tom, our fantastic costume designer. Lynn, makeup designer, and Matt, the DOP. They were just you never felt like they weren't. Everything was really considered. Yeah. So every costume looked exactly right in every room. And it was because all those conversations were just ongoing all the time.
How difficult is it writing from the perspective that isn't your own, and being an LGBT character? Did you have a consultant or anything like that in terms of helping with that side of things?
How do I write from?
How do you write for? I mean, how do you write? She's basically saying you were writing for a queer character. Did you seek any outside advice on that? I think that's what she's asking.
No, I mean the primary source is the journal, and Anne Lister's psyche and her personality are so clear. I mean, I wanted to represent her voice as much as I could, and it just all came out of the journal. I mean, I'm so steeped in the journal now. I mean, the first time I tried to make Anne Lister speak, that's quite a leap, but I think it came quite quickly. the voice, and it is because it's just all there in the journal. You know, it's such a, unless you've seen it and are familiar with reading it, it's so detailed. There's so much detail, day after day after day, and that accumulative knowledge in your mind when you read it as much as I do.
Yeah.
It just I mean, I didn't necessarily think of her just as a gay character. You know, she's a polymath. There's so much about Anne Lister besides being gay. You know, I don't know a lot about mining engineering either, but, you know.
Who was your mining consultant, Sally?
Brian.
Anne Lister was your consultant, all that detail. So she, let me see if I can find another couple of questions on here. Sorry, it's just hard to read my phone screen. So we've answered a lot of these already. Let's have a look. Oh, Nilgin wants to know if there are any other hidden queer icons you're looking for future projects.
I'm looking for interesting people, actually. People, a number of times people have asked me why I haven't written about the ladies of Llangollen. It's because I think they're as boring as paint. So you know, they don't have to be gay.
No other real character is going to come close to Anne Lister. She's just, you know, she doesn't write herself, obviously. But she's given you so much material. Like you're never going to run out, are you?
No, never. You know, it's. I mean, one of the hardest things I was saying this to Faith last week, I think we were talking about. I'm struggling with the episode I'm writing at the moment, as most writers are struggling at the moment, just to concentrate. And the biggest hurdle writing Gentleman Jack is what to leave out, what you can't cram in, because there's just too much information. So I'm writing episode 6 at the moment, and it's based broadly on 4 months, January, February, March, April 1835. And there's just too much. I mean, you could write a whole series about these 4 months.
Yeah.
And I've
choices
to get it
the time.
1 month, one episode, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's that's the hardest part is choosing what to, you know, it's a constant process. Constantly as I'm writing, I've got a plan of what I'm going to do for each episode, a very detailed plan of what I'll do for each episode. And each choice, you know, you make 1,000 choices on every page that you write, and most of those choices are about what I can't get in.
She's made it quite hard for you, actually, hasn't she? Too much information.
Yeah. So much information.
It's so fantastic, but it's so hard as well. It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
I've got a very specific question from Fiona. She says, how long did it take to film the proposal on the hill by the mine in the last episode? She says the availability of the light suggested it was relatively quick to work, but the light there must have been a number of takes and setup. So it's a technical question about filming and light, because you're filming outside a fair bit. That poses challenges, right?
We were very lucky with the sun. I think we were up there for 2 days to film all the scenes that we had up there. There were a number of scenes up there, and we had to film the scene with Anne Lister and Anne Walker at a particular time of day for the light to be in the right place. And it took ages to get it. We used a crane to film that shot where the camera went up over their heads when they kissed, and it took longer to get the crane ready than, as it always does, than you anticipated. So we shot it it was kind of, in my memory, which is faulty, it was a sort of across lunchtime, so it was the sort of middle 4 hours of the day that we were doing that, and we got quite good takes in.
Yeah, you just caught the light.
Yeah,
so
and I dropped one shot. There was one shot that I had to drop, which I was really cross about, but
that must be heartbreaking.
We were very lucky to film that first season. It was over the summer of 2018, which, if we remember, was the glorious heat wave. And so Yorkshire took on a sort of Tuscan, Umbrian, you know, had the sort of vibe of Umbrian hills, and was just, you know, glorious. So we've got fingers crossed for that. We have a sort of Indian summer when we're back there this year.
Yes, it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen.
You know, it really did contribute, that beautiful light and the sense of the warmth in the landscapes, I think really contributed to the overall look and feel of the show, and was so surprising for Yorkshire, because you just don't ever really see Yorkshire portrayed in that way. It's, you know, it's glorious.
Not Grim Up North.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's really not. It's beautiful.
It's gritty northern drama. It's not gritty northern drama.
It's
Hang on. Liz has a very ominous question, if I can just find it again. Sally, are you scared to let Anne Lister go eventually, seeing that this TV series perhaps is the culmination of your life's work?
No, I'm pleased that the world now knows who she is, because, as I said, for long enough she was Halifax's dirty secret, and people have tried to keep her under wraps for various reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased that the world now knows who she is. I'm pleased to, you know, that we've been instrumental in people all over the world finding out who this fantastic woman was.
I think Liz is driving at, like, when do you think you'll be ready to let her go? As in, because her story doesn't really end, apart from it does when she dies, obviously, but, you know.
Well, I hope, you know, depending if we, you know, continue to get commissions to tell the story, I would hope we would go up to the end of her life.
Which is it 1840? So we're and roughly how much time have you covered? Have you just done a year so far, or months, is it, basically?
I think season 1 took about 18 months.
Yeah.
And season 2 is going to be slightly less than that, actually.
You can eke her out for a while.
I'm never going to let go of it. When I finish writing this, I'm going to retire and transcribe the whole journal myself.
Fabulous. Oh my God, brilliant. But then, Faith, you need to find somebody else to write stuff for you, because she's going to be busy, apparently.
Busy driving. Not sure I believe that's going to be true.
So the hope is that you're going back into production whenever.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think late summer is when, you know, when everyone is talking about being able to be up and running again. Obviously, we just have to see how we all fare. And in
industry terms, obviously actors have accepted jobs in, I don't know, January or whatever. Does everyone schedule shunt down, or some people not? You'll be able to get your cast. It's not like they won't be available in. I'm just worried.
You know, at the moment, everyone is very committed to this, and, you know, desperate to come back to it. And I think that there will be, you know, hopefully, you know, it's not as if, you know, we're all in the same boat. And I hope that there will be a sort of gentlemanly sense of, you know, things that had to stand down midway through shooting will need to be finished. Then there are the things that were about to go into production, and then there were the shows beyond that. So, you know, I think that so far, you know, the sense amongst everyone in the industry is, you know, we're all in the same boat. As soon as we can start filming again, we will, you know, normal service will resume. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything I didn't ask you? So I'm just whizzing through questions on my screen here. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your marvellous show? While I hastily read my phone.
What haven't we talked about? I mean, the impact of the show, you know, the sort of deep, you know, one of the things that I've been really struck by, you know, is and not all shows create this kind of, you know, sort of longer lasting, deeper impact. But with this one, you know, the number of individuals who have written to express how the show and you know, Anne Lister's story has in some way, you know, sometimes quite profoundly and quite deeply changed their lives, and encouraged them to think about the choices that they had made. And actually now, you know, and this is sort of around the world, you know, women from around the world writing and saying, you know, how they've really been, you know, for a long time living with things that they didn't feel they necessarily had the courage to acknowledge in themselves, whether that is, you know, connected to sexuality or not. You know, it's so many different things. And it's been really interesting that, you know, a number of these women have actually then connected and formed groups. And there was, you know, planned before coronavirus got in the way, was a big pilgrimage celebration at Shibden Hall in April to mark Anne Lister's birthday.
It was in Halifax. I mean, there were like 2,000 women coming from all over the world.
I mean,
oh man,
incredible. You know, so a lot of that took place online, and it will now happen later in the year. But, you know, it really is just quite remarkable that she is able, her story is able to touch women's lives in this way. And I think that that's been, you know, incredibly gratifying, and doesn't happen, you know, it just doesn't happen. I haven't experienced that with a show before, and it's been
I've not experienced the fan art that we've had.
oh yeah,
oh do tell.
amazing fan art. It's been great.
Is it of the clean variety? That it's not, you know, that kind of fan art?
They're like little, I've got a couple of little brooches that people have made, and they're really exquisite.
Yeah.
Somebody from China sent me this. What's her name? Can't remember. And then Hatter's Art, she made some, again, just really fantastic, like this heart shape in two halves with Anne, and they're really beautifully made. You've seen them, Faith, haven't you?
And some gorgeous animations online, and you know, beautiful kind of creative work. It's, you know, great.
Yeah. You know Anne pretty well now from her diaries. What would she make of her posthumous fame and people thinking she's wonderful?
She'd either be delighted or she'd think it was vulgar.
She is a snob.
I think she'd probably be pretty delighted, actually. I think
but want them to keep at arm's length.
Sorry.
No, she'd be delighted, but she want them to stand over there.
Yeah.
Unless they were pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, both of you, doing this. This has been such a delight, and I think we'll have to leave it there. There's lots of questions of people asking, how do you become a new writer? But I think you kind of answered that already. Write, try and make something, get some friends together. If you can film a short, do that. But it's basically having something to show people, isn't it?
Yeah, and don't be scared to put things out there.
Yeah, be bold, be Anne, find your inner Lister. Women, thank you very much. You've been marvellous.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone.